My name is Jerome Anderson. I'll be one of your facilitators.
And I am Chandra McPherson Gibbs, and I will be serving as one of your facilitators as well.
To talk about having one voice for mental health, I am just so excited about the interest of mental health in our community, and we have a dynamic panel of people who are here today who will give us some information on mental health.
But we want to make sure that this is healthy conversation, and we want to make sure that this is open and honest dialogue. And one of the things that we found was that we may hear mental health, but we may not necessarily know the process. And what this conversation will allow us to do is allow us to hear the different steps of the process and then open it up for conversation.
Again, my name is Willie Priester, and I'm with the Orangeburg Area Mental Health Center. Our mission is to support the recovery of people with mental illness. And certainly we work to do that daily. Our goal is to ensure that we will be able to provide the services that are needed for those persons that we serve. That is, be prepared, be brief, and be seated. I plan to do all three. So tonight I'd like to begin by just expressing just a small definition of what mental health is designated as. And it says a person's condition with regard to their psychological and emotional well-being. It is the state of someone who's functioning at a satisfactory level of emotional and behavioral adjustment. So when someone is mentally healthy, that's the state that they should be in. And one of the things that we have is many organizations that supports advocacy for good mental health. Let's talk about a few of the warning signs. We look at some of the symptoms as being long-lasting sadness or irritability, extremely high and low moods, excessive fear, worry, and anxiety, social withdrawal, or dramatic changes in sleep, dramatic changes in eating habits. These are some of the things that can be a sign that there is a problem or there is some form of mental illness or psychiatric disorder. Here's some of the main groups of illnesses that we see. Mood disorders, depression, bipolar, anxiety disorders, personality disorders, eating disorders, trauma-related disorders, and substance abuse disorders. All of these will fit in the realm of one who's having some form of mental disorder. At our office, we have a walk-in system. You can walk in and you'll be served on the same day. We don't promise you to see a doctor the same day, but we promise you that you can see a mental health professional the same day that you walk in for service. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Dana Dalton and I'm the Chief Nursing Officer at Regional Medical Center. So one part of mental health that I think he and I probably looked at some of the exact same resources, but is an inability to effectively cope. Not everybody learns coping mechanisms. Not everybody is at an emotional level that they learn the coping mechanisms that they're going to need for life. Because everybody out there can agree, life's pretty tough. Nobody ever told me that life was going to be that tough and I was going to be responsible for everything I'm responsible for. So when we fail to meet that, quite frequently when it's due to a mental health issue, that just causes that person to have insult on top of injury because they're dependent upon by so many people. So they start to feel better, they get the treatment that they need, they're back to living that productive life, they're happy, everything's going well. How many people here would feel comfortable going to your boss and saying, excuse me, sir, but I have to go to my behavioral health counselor appointment tomorrow. Could I possibly leave at 2? There's no shame in it. It's a medical diagnosis. Correct? But that's what these people need to be healthy. That's what they need to be healthy, to live a happy, normal, productive life. They will self-medicate and to the point that they spiral because it's far cheaper to get a bottle of wine or get some alcohol and self-medicate and try to wash away that feeling of emptiness, loneliness, fear, irrational fear, anxiety. And we're not as judgmental over them if we feel like, well, they're just knocking a couple back because they're stressed. That's their coping mechanism. So to educate you, this panel is letting you know that a mental health issue is absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. And there is help there and there is support. But on this side, we can only do so much. So until you erase that stigma from your heart and your mind, and you support and love people for how God made them, this is never going to get any better.
I'm Mike Dennis again with the Tri-County Commission on Alcohol and Drug Abuse. Many of y'all may know us by the Dawn Center and our adolescent program, the William J. McCord Adolescent Facility. Mental health is a brain disorder. It is a brain disorder. And we know that because we know that when Mr. Priester and his staff or other physicians and our staff, when we prescribe medication that hits and helps to change that brain chemistry, and the therapy that the counselors can provide can go to help change that brain chemistry to alter all those things that had happened to them or that maybe they had been born with, as Dana said. And a lot of times what folks who have mental illness and they can't deal with the thoughts that are in their head, they can't deal with the feelings that they have, they don't want to experience those at all. And so they turn to alcohol or marijuana or cocaine or an opiate or a benzo like Valium or Xanax because they don't want to feel at all. They don't want to think at all. And that's where that intersection of mental illness and substance use comes in. And then that substance use took a life of its own and they became addicted. And so now they're dealing with two disorders and they don't know how to manage either one of them. And then because they don't know how to manage either one of them, and because of the stigma that was talked about, there's a fear of coming in to see us. Those things play in that person's mind, just like that tape of that kid who says, "Why did my mom not love me enough that she committed suicide?" That's all I got.
I'm Judge Jones Glover, and I'm honored to serve as your county probate judge. I want to take just a few moments to discuss the probate court's role in the process. My court generally gets involved when an individual has no insight into his or her condition, or he or she may just be unwilling to seek treatment. So that is called the civil commitment process. And so I want you to understand that there are two forms of civil commitment. The first I'm going to spend the most time discussing, and that's the emergency process. There's an emergency process and there's a judicial process. The emergency process takes place, or that's the procedure for individuals who, because of their mental illness, they present a danger to themselves or to someone else. And so what we're looking for in that instance is a situation where there is immediate or imminent danger of harm to the individual or to someone else in the community. The emergency process is initiated, ladies and gentlemen, at the mental health center. So we have the mental health workers that are there on site to assist loved ones with the application. And again, in the application process, the affiant, the person completing the affidavit, they have to spell out specific threats, specific reasons or potential harm that could be posed in the event that the deputies don't stop at that moment to bring the individual in for an evaluation or for treatment. So more often than not, the individuals are refusing treatment, they don't want help, or they don't recognize that they are experiencing or exhibiting bizarre behaviors. So whenever the individual is located, the law provides that the deputies have, or law enforcement has 24 hours to have the person evaluated. And so what they normally do is they would take the individual into mental health, depending on the hour. If not, they'll take them to the emergency room. And depending on the results of the evaluation, the individual is then transferred or transported for additional treatment at a treating facility. So So what happens after that point is when the individual is transferred to the treating facility, that facility has 48 hours, excluding Saturdays and Sundays and legal holidays, of course, to send the information to my court. I then have 48 hours to review the certificate from the doctor and the application once again. And if we determine that there's probable cause to keep the person there for additional treatment, then I issue an order for continued hospitalization. And according to section 4423.10, a mentally ill person is a person afflicted with a mental disease to the extent that for his own welfare or the welfare of the community, he requires care, treatment, or hospitalization. I said the judicial process is pretty much the same way. It's simply started by an appointment with an examiner rather than being picked up by law enforcement. So that is the process, the civil commitment process in the state of South Carolina.
So we have the opportunity to come in contact with these people, transporting and different things. So we are always in the process. One thing that I would say tonight is that now, since I've been here in law enforcement for about 32 years, now I can actually say that we have a real partnership and a real team with all of these folks that are sitting here and it takes that because the sheriff definitely cannot do it all. Just like somebody said earlier, mental illness is a problem. And to be honest with you, like somebody said again, I'm glad I could be last because to the point at people. We created that problem because we refuse to accept and admit. I've seen throughout my years here in law enforcement in Orangeburg County where people know that their kids need to be on medication. Kids. And they refuse to do it because of that stigma. And some 20-some years later, I'm dealing with that child. So this is why I really applaud, and I know he don't want me to say this, but I applaud my pastor, Reverend Anderson, for bringing to us this conversation. Every morning when I wake up, I feel responsible for 1,100 square miles, almost 100,000 people. I'm responsible for your safety and security. Within that comes mental illness, which in the last few years, it's been a great burden on us. And like I said earlier, all the factions that deal with mental illness is we have to take a part in at the sheriff's office. And I, again, make sure that our people know that when they're dealing with a mental person, they're dealing with somebody that's really not thinking, they're not themselves. So you have to deal with them on a different level. And that's difficult sometimes to be safe, to keep yourself safe, and them safe, and the family safe. Thank you.
My name is Joy Jameson. I've been diagnosed with depression, major depression, generalized anxiety, and up into August, PTSD. I had a bad breakup, and my life wasn't going how I planned or see it to be. And I started noticing some things, like I didn't eat as much. I was crying every day, every night. The difficult part was I didn't know how to express it. And it's such a stigma in our community, especially in the Black community, that, even my parents didn't know what was going on. Depression to me felt like I was in this black, dark hole. And no matter how hard I tried to come out of it, the hole just kept getting bigger and deeper. And it was just so hard that it came to a breaking point where, yes, I did try to commit suicide. I would like to say that was my last time of trying to do it, but unfortunately it wasn't. That's when we learned that we needed to do more, that just encouraging me and praying was not enough. Not saying praying is bad, but sometimes you need a little bit more than that. I went to a therapist, and they tell you how to continue with life and to let you know that it's okay and that you're not alone and there's always someone out there to understand what you're going through. And that it's okay, because I know I had to fight with myself with being on medication. And I had to tell myself that it's okay. You're just one of those people who are going to have to be on medication in order to be better, and you want to be a better person. I'm just here to educate you and tell you that it's not all what you think it is. And to let you know that I am the face of mental illness, and that it's not always what you think it's going to be. And there you go.
What about drug court?
My understanding is we have a juvenile drug court that's run by the solicitor's office. We do not have an adult drug court here.
My name is Sherlonda Adkins, and I'm actually from Charleston, South Carolina, and my managing director and I were riding through Orangeburg and heard the advertisement on the radio and didn't get all the information, so we contacted the radio station, and I believe that's Mr. Elwood who told us where to come. But I am a physician assistant. I work in mental health. I am a psychiatric PA, so I treat patients who deal with depression, bipolar, anxiety, ADHD, and everything in between. So I'm so excited to see that you guys are hosting such an event, because it's so important to get this information out to the community.
But I came to this community as an advocate on behalf of people. Many of you may not remember, but that's how I got here, helping people who were in crisis and in trouble.
Tell us about the success of tonight's event, if you will.
Just incredibly successful, and it brought the community together, and it allowed them to hear multiple stories and find out about multiple resources, but also focus on the fact that there is no shame in mental health. It is an issue, it is huge in our community, and we have to tap into all of those resources and support one another so that people get the help they truly need.
I see it as a forum through which we can allow people to turn their pain into power, and I'm really excited about seeing unity in our community, and that's what it's going to take to address issues. But we have to identify some issues with mental health. We got to talk about it, and then we got to make changes in our culture, in our society, as it relates to mental health.
Sincere thanks to Pastor Anderson for allowing us this opportunity and really focusing on what our community needs to be whole, physically, spiritually, and mentally.
This is Harvey Elwood. We're here at the Mental Health Forum held on the campus of Orangeburg Technical College. It's a really important forum talking about all the issues and all the things that community can face, what individuals are facing, and we heard some really good testimonials from a lot of people that were talking about a very important subject, to remove the stigma from mental health. Right here, reporting from Orangeburg, I'm Harvey Elwood for WOCS 93.7 and Orangeburg County Television.